Hey y'all, I'm Jonna Lee and I'm here to talk with you about books today. So this last weekend, my husband took me to McKays down in Nashville, an awesome two-story used bookstore, the best I've ever been to. They also have one in Knoxville and Chattanooga, and I'm not sure anywhere else, but I got a whole pile of books. I had almost $80 in credit, and so I will show you what I got. So the first one I got is The Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. Heard a lot of good about this on BookTube. The Shack by William Paul Young. My daughter was telling me I needed to watch this movie, and haven't watched the movie, but I decided I'd read the book first. I like reading the book first before seeing movies. Now this one, All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren, won the Pulitzer Prize. I'm not sure what year it was, but in our town, the town I live in, is the Robert Penn Warren Museum. He lived here. I'm not sure if he was writing this book when he lived here or if it was in his youth, but I will find out when I go to the museum. Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rifka Brunt. This was on BookTube a lot years ago when I first started watching BookTube, and I've been meaning to pick it up. That's the thing about being on the hunt for books. You may hear, especially on BookTube, of about a great book, and you just got it in the back of your mind, and then 5 years later, you find it. When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. This is about the surgeon who got neurosurgeon, I believe. Yeah, was diagnosed with lung cancer, and he wrote a book while he was dying. And I watched a YouTube video on his wife. Apparently she finished the book, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Widow of the South by Robert Hicks. Now, I first heard about this book when I toured the Carnton Plantation in Nashville. The Carnton Plantation, this woman had this huge house, and the bloodiest battle, I believe, was fought right by her place, and she turned her house into a hospital. And when we toured it, you could see the bullet holes, you could still see the blood on the floor of where they turned desks and tables into operating tables. And so I started reading this book then, and I couldn't get into it, but I definitely want to read it because we are going to be touring it again. The Tea House Fire by Ellis Avery. Now, this one I believe I heard about on Jenny King's channel. Not 100% sure, but I think that was correct. So that will go on the to be read. The Poisonwood Bible. Now, this one, I actually got the hardback cover. This was going around on BookTube this last year as an excellent book. I bought it years ago and had it in my to be read shelves. And I went to read it in December and could not find it anywhere. And so I saw it at McKay's, picked it up, and 2 days later, I'm working through my bookshelves, and I found my book. So that will go back to being donated. Now, this is Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. I actually thought of, I've got a great setup here. I mean, fantastic. It falls. This was Doris at Aldi Books' favorite book of the year last year. Now, I have it in the paperback edition that I like, but when I saw this for $3, I picked it up because I know she goes to that same McKay's, and I need to get her address and send it to her. This is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, and people either love this or hate this, and I started reading it at a bookstore one time, and I really enjoyed it, and so I picked it up. McKay's actually had several of the books that are in this quartet, or however many it is. So I figured I'd read one, and if I like it, I'll get another one. See, now my lighting's off. Okay, Miss Lincoln's Dressmaker by Jennifer Shiverini. Now, I have read most of her backlist. She writes mostly about quilting, or she started out about that. Now she's starting to find people like Mrs. Lincoln's Dressmaker and different ones, and she writes about them. Now, my daughter-in-law and I and my granddaughter have a book club going, and it's my pick next month, so that's the book I'm picking. I love these Persephone editions. I would love someday to go to London and go to the Persephone store. You can see my editions right there, and I also have more in my to be read shelf. And these are hard to find in America. I haven't come across them too much, so I was thrilled to find this, and I believe I paid $2 for it. Life After Life by Kate Atkinson, another BookTube darling. Now this one last week I picked up at the library on audiobook and have been listening to it in the car. I'm not a big audio listener, but I really enjoyed it, so I decided to pick up a copy of it to actually read. See, where did I leave off? The Crawdad. Where the Crawdads sing. I love reading books about the South, seeing that I live in the South. Now this one was the most expensive book I bought. It was in the new selection, and so I ended up paying half price of the original. I think I paid $13 for it, and I'm thrilled to read that. Hopefully I'll get to that this year. The Bookshop of Yesterdays by Amy Meyerson. I love books about books and bookshops and reading. I have half a shelf in my to-be-read library in the living room of books like that. Plus, up there, I have a bunch of books about reading. I should not mess with my laptop. I'm not smart. Reading Rooms. This is America's Foremost Writers Celebrate Our Public Libraries with Stories, Essays, Poems, and Memoirs. And you can see it's got some great authors. Eudora Welty, E.B. White, Philip Roth, James Baldwin, Amy Tan, and a bunch of others. This is Brooklyn by Colm Toibin. And I've read one of his books. Really liked his style of writing. So I'm collecting his backlist. Now I tried reading another Ali Smith and I couldn't get into it. I saw this book and I've heard a lot of good about that. Oh, right now I see it won the Man Booker Prize. Oh, finalist. So I'm going to try it, and then if I like it, I'll try to pick up the winter edition. Ann Patchett, State of Wonder. Ann Patchett co-owns a bookstore in, actually you call it a bookshop in Nashville that I've been to, and I have read some of her books, and I really like her writing. I loved her book Truth and Beauty. I read that last year, and I read The Story of a Happy Marriage, which was a collection of essays and different things that she's written, a lot about her writing life. Love that book. And I'm just finishing up Bel Canto. Probably finish up that today. And Bel Canto I had a hard time getting into, but people have raved about that book. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get through this. And I'm so glad I did, because halfway through I really started super enjoying it. The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevin. I went to her book talk when this came out. Was that a few years ago? And I actually have a hard copy of this 2014. Wow, was it that long ago? Maybe it was a different book she was bringing out when the book talk I went to. But I love this little book. I had my granddaughter read it. She loved it. And I have the hard copy edition, so I'm going to give that to her and keep the paperback because I just love that cover. And yeah, I'm one of those shallow people that loves covers. This is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I've heard so much about this one, and I've been on a hunt for this book for a while. So I'm hoping to get to that book this year. And then the final book is The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. Now, I didn't know if I would like this book. I read it last year. I actually ordered it from the library. And when I'm not sure about a book that I'll like, and if I want to keep it in my own library, I usually check it out first from the library and read it. And if I get through it and really enjoy it, then I'll be on the hunt to find it used to add to my library. So I read this, I think almost a year ago, and finally found it. So I'm thrilled about that. So I would love to know if any of you have read any of these books, and if you enjoyed them, or if there's certain ones you think I should read, put to the top of the list. And yeah, well, it's been great chatting with you guys today about books, and I'll see you in the next video.